Okay, find the slope and y-intercept of the graph of the linear equation. On this one, I would go with my calculator because that's probably the easiest place to find it. You could solve for y, and I can show you that in just a second. So we're going to graph. Let's get a clean graph here. Okay. So, all right. So when I'm typing this in, I'm looking at this equation. And I'm like, wait a minute. It doesn't have f of x. It doesn't have y. It has this long thing. So you might want to write this down. Menu 3, 2. Now I can type whatever I want as my equation. So negative 5x plus 2y equals negative 20. There's my line, menu 5, 1. I'm tracing. Let's see. The y-intercept is 0, negative 10. Okay, so the y-intercept, oops, I'm off screen there. The y-intercept is 0, negative 10. And then the slope of the graph. Okay, now this could be a little bit trickier with the calculator because it doesn't come right out and say the slope on there, right? But what I can do is find another point. So I trace along and see if I can find another whole number, because that would be nice, right? And I find one 4, 0. Okay, so my two, I go from 0, negative 10 to 4, 0. So I went up 10 and I went up 4. You can kind of think of this as a table of x and y. So that means my slope is 10 over 4. And what I want to do now is find out what that would be in its reduced form. So I go back to my calculator and I type 10 divided by 4, enter, and it tells me that would be 5 over 2. So my slope is 5 over 2. Okay. So that one and that one are my answers. Now, for those of you who don't like to use the calculator, here's another way. We start off with negative 5x plus 2y equals 20. We solve this for y, so I need to get rid of the x. So I add 5x to both sides of the equation, and that zeroes out, so I'm left with 2y equals 20 plus 5x. Then I divide everything by 2. And I get that y equals my mistake. That was negative 20. So I get negative 20 divided by 2. I'll mark through it on my paper. Sorry about that. Okay, so I get negative 10 plus 5 over 2 y, which there's my y-intercept. There's my slope. I wrote y. I'm so silly. That should be an x. Oh my goodness gracious. You might want to look at that one really carefully before you commit to it. I apologize. Okay, so again, negative 5x plus 2y equals negative 20 was what we started with. Add 5x to both sides. Divide everything by the 2, and you get negative 10 plus 5 halves x. The negative 10 is your y-intercept. The 5 halves is your slope. Okay, just a couple more to go. Which statements are true about the function 2x minus y equals negative 4? The y-intercept is 4. The graph of the function is this. The x-intercept is negative 2. And the x-intercept is 4. Okay? All of those questions can be answered with a simple graphing of the relationship, the equation, on your calculator. So let's get a clean graph. Okay, we need to change it. Menu 3, 2, and we're going to type in 2x minus y equals negative 4. Okay. So I'm looking and it's crossing the y-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4. Okay, so I look at my here and there's 4 on my y-axis, so this graph is not a true statement. Okay, but it is crossing at 4, so A is a true statement. Okay, but there's still the matter of the x-intercept. So we look over here at where it's crossing the x-axis, and it is crossing at negative 2. So C is also correct, but D is not. So both choices A and C would be true. Okay, number 18 says to graph the linear equation, label the points corresponding to the x and y intercepts. Okay, so x plus y equals 4. I've got a graph on the back of this, so let's flip over here. X plus y equals 4. All right, so we have a couple of choices to go with here. We could find the x and y intercepts from the equation and graph them. We could solve the equation for y and graph the equation and then see what the x and y intercepts were. I'm going to take it both ways. You could also use your calculator, but I've shown you all that enough, so I'm going to trust that you can figure that one out for yourselves. So if we go with the x-intercept, y-intercept idea, we know that the x-intercept will be some number, comma 0, and the y-intercept will be 0, comma some number. Okay, so what that means for us is x plus 0 equals 4, and 0 plus y equals 4. In both cases, our variable is equal to 4. So that means we have 4, 0, and 0, 4. So if we want to graph that, we would simply go to positive 4 on the y-axis, positive 4 on the x-axis, and then we would grab a straight edge of some kind, and we would graph our line. Okay. All right. The other alternative is to solve the equation for y and then graph. So if we had x plus y equals 4, to get y by itself, we would subtract x, and we end up with y equals 4 minus x, which means my y-intercept, or b, is 4, my m is negative 1. So I come to 4 and I count down 1, over 1, down 1, over 1, down 1, to the right. And I end up at the same spot. Okay? So either method would work. Let's go back to the paper. And it says the points represented by the table lie on a line. What is the slope of the line? Okay, so by telling us they all lie on the line, we can check slope anywhere we want to. So I'm just going to look here. I went from 2 to 3, so that's an increase of 1. I went from negative 1 to negative 2. That's a decrease of 1. So my slope would be negative 1 over positive 1, because we have our change of y divided by our change in x. And so negative 1. Okay, and then the last one, graph y equals 1.5. So I come here to 20 on the back of the paper. Y equals 1.5. If y equals 1.5, then on my y-axis, we're at 1.5. And anywhere along the way, my y is simply 1.5. Okay? So remember, y lines with no x are 0 slope. Okay. And was that all they asked me to do, was graph it? Yep. Oh, you know, on number 18, it said label the points corresponding to the X and Y intercepts. So, there we go. There are X, that's our Y intercept. That's our X intercept. Cool beans. All right. Hope you learned something.